Welcome back to The Rustic Wife. I'm Alana. Today we're going to be gathering some of our maple sap and boiling it down over an open fire to make it into syrup. So I'm going to show you how we do that. And I had a previous video that we did about tapping our trees, so I'm going to link that above so you can check that out. And this is part 2 of our maple syrup process. They're not impressed with maple syrup boiling, are you? Do you care that we're making maple syrup? You do. Now for our fire pit, we've just taken some bricks that were left over from building the house, and we've just cleared a spot and just arranged them like this to a little fire pit. We had this fire grate here. We had that made with some angle iron to hold our evaporator pan. Wood that we have for our outdoor sap boiling operation. Got a mixture of ash and maple here, so you want some good quality dry wood for continuous heat for your sap boiling. You don't want to get your pan too over full either, because it foams up and you don't want it foaming over and splattering into your fire. So this is our evaporator pan that we have. Like I said before, we used to use the tall soup pots, but it just took forever to boil down. With a shallow pan like this, it takes less time. The only problem with our pan that we got is it's a bit of a pain. It doesn't have handles to remove it from the fire. Some of them have a spigot where you can drain the syrup out into the finishing pan, which is over there. I think we're going to cut this one in half and have it welded into 2 pans. That'd be safer, I think. So this finishing pan is much easier to handle. It's smaller, it's got handles, you can lift it off the fire safely, and it's just better for finishing the syrup. So just use this skimmer to skim off the foam that comes up. You just collect the sap in these food grade 4-gallon pails and then take it over to the fire there. So I only have 2 left full of sap, and then I'll go around and collect more sap from the trees. Checking the pails again. I just emptied them 4 hours ago. And it's such a lovely day. Look at how much is in there now. Sweet and refreshing. So some of the sap is boiled down already, so we're going to add some more to the evaporator pan. So I'm just taking a break from the fire. I have James and Isabel down there watching it. I'm just up here. I just made a pot of chili for our supper tonight, something quick while we're doing our syrup. And I thought, since we have that open fire, I would make some fry bread. I made that recipe a few years back on my blog, and I thought I would do it again for you guys here. And it's really quick and easy, and we'll dip the fry bread in maple syrup. So I'm just going to turn you around and show you how I do this. This fry bread is a traditional First Nations recipe, so I thought since we were doing maple syrup, it would be kind of fitting to put them together, since maple syrup was something that the First Nations people showed us how to do as well. So anyway, for the recipe, it's 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, I've already put that in there, and I've got a half a teaspoon of salt, and I have 1 tablespoon of baking powder, not baking soda, and then I'm just going to give that a mix. And then I've got a half a cup of milk and a half a cup of water. You can just do all water if you want, and it's just as simple as that. Just mix that up into until it forms a dough. Just going to knead it just slightly, just to get it into, just to form it into something you can work with. Just going to flatten it out. So what I'll do is I'll cut it into pieces, because I'm going to wrap some of this onto a stick and bake it over the coals. So I'm just going to flatten that out, and then I'm going to fry it in my cast iron pan over top of the fire. I'm gonna lift this into the pie plate. I'll just carry that down to the fire like that. There we go, ready for the fire. So I just put a grate down and my cast iron pan with my shortening in the pan, so we'll let that get up to temperature and then we'll put the fry bread in it. There's my fry bread here. We're gonna have it with some maple syrup. Dip it in some maple syrup. There you go, honey. It's your first. Get the first bite. It's good. Good. Tastes like good. I just put the last pail into the evaporator pan. I think we have done that's 40 gallons I think we've done, or close to it, maybe 35 or 40 gallons. So we're just gonna boil that, and that's the last pail we're gonna have to do for today. So this is our first boil, and we'll see how much we get tonight. Starting to boil down there really nicely now, and shortly we'll put it in the smaller pan to evaporate it even more. So this is what we have to do. We have to move the big one off of the fire, put it into the small evaporator pan. It's not ideal, but it's better than scorching the whole batch. So it's boiling down. I have my candy thermometer in there. A hydrometer would be much more accurate. I don't have one of those, but the candy thermometer, it should read 219 degrees. Water boils at 212 degrees, and maple syrup boils at 219 degrees. So once it reaches 219, it should be done, but I guess that depends on where you live, your elevation. Yum. So we just pulled the small pan off the fire, and we're going to take that up to the house, and we'll strain it through some cloth to get the bits out. So this is just my food mill that I use. It's got the cone-shaped sieve. I got these filters at the co-op. They are for this, but with proper equipment. This clearly is not proper maple syrup equipment, but this is what I have. And then I'm going to pour the syrup through there just to strain any of the debris from the fire. It also strains much better when it's hot. Ladle the syrup into jars. So I leave this much space at the top of the jar because I put these in the freezer. If maple syrup is properly boiled down, it won't freeze solid. It'll just get really thick. But since I don't have a hydrometer, and we just kind of eyeballed it with the thermometer, then it may still have a bit of water in it and it will freeze and expand. So that's why I leave that much space there. So we store our maple syrup in the freezer so it doesn't crystallize. We have almost 9 quarts, not filled quite to the top. So we started this sap boiling this morning at about 9:30, and it's after 6 now, so that just goes to show you how long it takes to boil some sap down into maple syrup, but it's totally worth it. Good morning. So this is the next day, and I've let the maple syrup settle, and you can see that there's some sediment in the bottom, so I'm going to strain that out this morning. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel. Also hit the post notification button so that you can tell when I've put up new videos. So until next time, it's the Rustic Wife signing off. And yeah. No! Otis